Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, 23rd of April, 2026. My name is Hadiza Bala Aliyu from Extension Africa, and I'll be moderating the session, putting on context of how the session is going to be and what we're going to discuss in the next 2 seconds. All right. Right, I'm sure my screen is visible. All right, so today we're going to have a webinar on the CBAs as human APIs. So this project was done 3 years ago in partnership with AGRA, and then we're going to have the session for 90 minutes. That's 1 hour 30 minutes, where we have a list of panelists below. We'll have our panelist moderator in the person of Mr. Olushola Adeyemi, which is the lead sustainable farming distributor and extension at AGRA. We're also going to have 2 presenters from Extension Africa, Mr. Abdulsamad Isah, which is the CEO of Extension Africa, who is going to be our first speaker. And also we're going to have Mr. Ezra Kolo, who is going to be our last speaker from Extension Africa. Below are the list of our panelists. We're going to have Professor Chris Daudu from NELLS. We're going to have Dr. Esther Ibrahim, Program Manager, AGRA. We're also going to have Dr. Afolabi Samson from Premier Tropicana, Nigeria. We're also going to have Mr. Shaheed Maikudi, the CEO of AI. Good afternoon once again, and welcome everyone. Giving you a welcome to our webinar. So now the panelists in the series, please present yourself, introduce yourself. So show your face and your cameras before we dive into the session. Please, Mr. Abdulsamad, starting with you, and let's so in the context.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abdulsamad. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Extension Africa. And I led implementation of the AGRA Kaduna Consortium, which started in 2022 to 2024. And I will be giving the impact of it. Yeah. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abdulsamad. We have Mr. Ezra Kolo. Please present yourself. On your camera, show your face. Mr. Ezra. All right, moving next to Mr. Olushola. Please introduce yourself, show your face, turn on your camera for our audience to see you.
Yeah, thank you, Hadiza. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Olushola Adeyemo. I work with AGRA in the headquarters in Nairobi as the lead for sustainable farming, distribution, and extension. And I'll be moderating the panel session today. Looking forward to engaging with you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olushola. And then next, we have our group of panelists. Please, Professor Chris, introduce yourself. Tap on your camera. Let the audience see your face. Thank you.
Good afternoon, distinguished partners and colleagues. I'm Professor Chris Daudu. I work at the National Agricultural Extension Research and Licensing Services of Ahmadu Bello University. I work on the intersection of extension, climate change, and soils. We have actually been engaged, supported by AGRA since 2019 to see how we could promote and evaluate the effectiveness of CBAs. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Professor Chris. And next we have Dr. Esther. Please show your face and introduce yourself for our audience.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are joining this webinar from. Esther Ibrahim. I work for AGRA as Program Officer at Journey of CBA model in Nigeria since 2018. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Esther. And next we have Dr. Afolabi Samson from Premier Tropicana. Please introduce yourself and show your face. Camera.
Thank you very much, Hadiza. Good afternoon, everyone. Afolabi Samson is the name. I work for Premier Tropicana Nigeria Limited as the technical lead. It's nice to be here, and I look forward to a very good and exposing deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Afolabi. And then last, we have Mr. Shaheed. Mr. Shaheed, the CEO of AI. Please introduce yourself, tap the camera, and show your face for our audience. Mr. Shaheed? Mr. Shaheed. All right. So we dive into the session. I'll stop sharing my screen now. I promise it's going to be an engaging session. So pick up your pens and your jotters. I'm very sure there are opportunities coming from this session. So let's dive in. All right. So this webinar today is going to present the findings and the lessons from phase 1 of AGRA, looking at the project starting 2022 to 2024. The project lessons for 3 good years in partnership with 5 consortium members. So this project was able to reach at least 300,000 farmers, 1,000 CBAs, and also agro dealers, not just agro dealers, and also agro processors. Now, within all these processes, I'm sure Extension Africa must have encountered some challenges, some lessons learned, and some outcomes, whether they are positive or negative, which is going to drive us through the session. So please, Mr. Abdulsamad, could you share some of these lessons learned, impact, and also the outcomes you have encountered during and after implementation of this project? Mr. Abdulsamad, is on to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hadiza, and good afternoon once again. So just like Hadiza made mention, it's going to be an interesting session, and I think AGRA started the CBA model right from 2018 or 2019, and this was not just another project. It was conceived to solve a lingering problem that is bedeviling the Nigerian system. But you might be asking then why Kaduna? AGRA was still working in Kaduna because of the large population of farmers we have. Although it's still estimated that there is around 9 million individuals in Kaduna, which 70 to 75% are all farmers. While within this period of 2018 or 2019 to 2022, Sasakawa Africa Association and that of NARLS and Professor Chris is representing, were piloting to make sure that there is a system where we can reduce the gap of extension to farmer ratio, which is currently at 1 to 10,000, although there is a lot of debate on this ratio. But the most reliable one is this 1 to 10,000 extension to farmer ratio. And one of those other things that are also very critical in this discussion, it's because, and why the topic that aligns with the topic where we said CBAs as APIs, is because we also need to understand the ecosystem. There is more than 100 technology solutions that are trying to solve extension advisory. But the question is it within the context of Kaduna State or Nigeria agriculture? So in terms of mobile ownership, in terms of also the literacy level of the smallholder farmers, away from the literacy level, also affordability because of the private extension model that has been pioneered. So my screen is just showing an ecosystem of asking that question on if we want to rely 100% on technology, is that feasible? But definitely you will all agree with me that based on this parameters that is not feasible, and that's why the CBA model or community-based agent become necessary to make sure that we're able to cushion the effect of these numbers. So this is what extension used to look like and what the CBA model tries to solve. We're providing currently, I think in Kaduna, we have more than 70 extension agents that are having that large number of smallholder farmers, which is not feasible. And that is all strictly focused on just advisory, crop advisory or livestock advisory. But what the CBA model we tried to do is to look at it from a business perspective and see that the agent can multitask and do other actively provide other supporting services to the smallholder farmers, including input, market linkage, and other support services alongside the advisory. If you look at by my right, the image depicts that the advisory is free, and this is based on the assumption that the farmers are not willing to pay. Even for some of them don't have the ability to pay because its extension is still perceived as a government responsibility. So this is when Extension Africa and Premier Seed, Pearl Mutual, NERLS come together in Kaduna to really see how to make sure that we're able to transform the extension, the CBA model to a market-led extension system. So this was from the left-hand side, you can see this was what we tried to imagine. Because one of those things is not that, which is what note taking, that the CBAs are not replacing the extension workers. They are only supporting or augmenting so that they can reach more smallholder farmers. So currently what we have is an extension agent serving and working with around 20 CBAs. So because these public extension workers have built the trust and have that technical expertise to serve farmers. So pairing makes it easier for the CBAs to be able to learn while providing services. They are also able to learn. From my left-hand side on the slide shows how we think that this can be helpful. One of those things that is also critical is that majority of the government extension workers are not businessmen, does not have the business acumen. So what we did was with the AGRA fund was to make sure that we expose them to business skills, entrepreneurship skills, moving away from, because if they are unable to transition to look at extension from a market system approach, it will be difficult for them to be able to influence the CBAs to do the same. And that was why they were trained in the Kaduna Business School with a certificate on making sure that they are able to provide this added service to the CBAs. So once the CBAs have been technically trained, the CBAs are were selected by NERLS. They also received training on good agronomic practices, climate smart agriculture from NERLS, and some from Premier Seed as well. While we provide them with the market acumen, the business acumen, to make sure that they are, and create that linkage to market finance, to make sure that they are able to earn income. And that's what it looks like, where we're saying that while they're providing these advisory services, they are linked to seed companies, chemical companies, fertilizer services and market, and also even financial services, as we will see that those were the major these were the major successes we had during the project. And this is what the profile of the CBAs look like. Like I said, we train them, NARLS do same training. Premier Seed also conducts a lot of trainings for the agent. But one of those things that is very important is to look at their age, right? Their mean age looks at that they have energy, they should be tech savvy. They have basic education, although we saw that there is a gap in terms of their digital literacy and digital skills as well. But overall, these are youths who are living and staying within the farming communities. We are unable to cover all the LGs in Kaduna, so we focused on 18 local government because of the challenges of insecurity. The target was for us to be able to reach around 60% male and 40% female, but we are unable to reach that percentages, but we've been able to take that almost to 37%. And this is what the CBA activity looks like when I was talking about making sure that they are able to provide both businesses and also the advisory as a value add service. So it looks like that throughout the year, they have something they are offering to the smallholder farmers, which meets the need of the farming communities. So this is what the success looks like based on, so you can see the activities. And the next slide just shows you how much they were able to generate, that more than 80% of them were able to facilitate commodity aggregation, and also not just commodity aggregation, but also input purchase. That's why Premier Seed is here. Dr. Afolabi will share more light on that. One of those things that was also very significant we've seen is data collection, because these agents are within these communities, so they become more like an infrastructure that can allow people to just ask for information and engage them in terms of data collection. We've seen also, because of that convening power, that they're serving around 300 farmers. Each CBA is serving 300 farmers. They're able to aggregate demand, and even some of them are taking opportunity to buy and sell at that community level for what, though they don't have that they don't have the resources to buy in bulk, but they are still able to manage with the little they have. They were also engaged by insurance companies and credit, because Sterling Bank did engage some of these farmers. We've also seen that Pula and other insurance company, weather services providers also engage them. Although that number is low, but this is in terms of the low number. I think it's a general activity that is happening, that farmers generally are not adopting weather services currently, but still, notwithstanding, the CBAs were able to pull one or two transactions in that, and they earn income or commission when they are providing these services. From this side, you can see that 83%, like I said earlier, of this CBAs were able to make sure that they bridge that gap when it comes to commodity aggregation, input seeds. I think I had another slide where I showed the detail in terms of the quantity. In terms of the quantity of inputs that the agent were able to facilitate. And this is not just because one will be very concerned that maybe the agent will now be focused so much on what works for the agent in terms of revenue and not focus on the advisory. But our results shows otherwise, that notwithstanding, we are still able to track the farmer prosperity score. And what we've seen is that 97% of these farmers have received training from the CBAs. And we've also seen that these CBAs are not just generating demand from any farmer, but from within their farmers. And that advisory have also helped in terms of increasing the income yields, the income and also the crop yield for the farmers, which is almost around 97% of the farmers. So this chart also has shown that while the agents are earning, the farmers are not shortchanged, and the advisory is still intact. So this is just to show the incomes, the average income that, although, like I stated earlier, when any RLS was recruiting, there is that focus on making sure there were selection criteria to make sure that we get the ideal CBAs. But it's also two extremes that when you have a good technical person or CBAs, they might not come with that high level of entrepreneurial skills. So there is still that portion of the CBAs who are not unable to provide or become entrepreneurial. So what we've seen is that 81% of them were providing services back to back and earning commission, while some of them were still not, because they still believe extension should be a government, just an advisory, right? Because for becoming entrepreneurial, it's also a mindset thing. And that was why we reported and engaged extension agents to make sure that they are able to receive trainings in terms of that soft skill, entrepreneurial skills, and digital skills. Majority of the agents the CBAs are also very satisfied. They are happy, and we are also able to create not just assess this from the CBA's perspective or the farmer perspective, but also the businesses they are serving. And I think in the panelists we have the businesses that are working with this agent, and they have also shown satisfaction in terms of working with these CBAs. Especially those who are aggregating commodity and those who are trying to facilitate input purchases within the rural or hard-to-reach communities. One of those things that is critical to make mention here is that we've seen that in terms of income also, currently the public extension worker earns around $30, which is around 30,000, but that have improved a bit. And our CBAs also, in terms of the mean of the income, we've seen that have increased to almost 70,000 naira, which is around roughly $70. But max, I think what we've seen within that period while implementing this project, we've seen around $150. That's an agent that is working from seed and have high active smallholder farmers within his group. So definitely sustainability is one of those things that is critical. And what the question we are asking is what it will take to sustain this structure, what it will take to sustain to make sure that the businesses continuously engage the farmer, the CBAs. And one of those things because of the fund we received from AGRA was that we go around to advertise this structure of 1,000 CBAs and 300,000 or 301,000 smallholder farmers in Kaduna, so that we create that interest from the businesses. But while the funds was wrapping up, we realized that this might not be sustainable, and that was one of those things that led us to build in some other technology solutions that would bring the businesses or bring an interface where the CBAs are able to interface and interact with the businesses. But overall, we see in terms of the sustainability metrics that there is a lot of metrics, and even the perception of the CBAs, because the question was, do you think you can continue without Extension Africa, without the Kaduna Consortium team that are working with you? And majority of them have shown satisfaction that they can continue to provide these services to their farmers based on the income they are generating from these processes. So, like I mentioned earlier, the first one is that definitely we couldn't cover all the LGs in Kaduna due to insecurity. And one of the other things you will ask, what is the current number of active agents or CBAs after the project since 2025 to date? What we've seen is, because it's not all of them that are digitally literate. They might be strong in technical skills, but we have challenge in terms of digital skills. Although AGRA during the project, tablet or Android supported phones were provided to more than 100 CBAs, but there is that limitation of almost 29% of them not being able to continue, because for even the current project we are implementing, which is also sponsored by AGRA, where we're digitizing this content. If a CBA does not have access to any device, they struggle to continuously learn because we can't continuously interface with them, which is very expensive, taking around 40% of project implementation. So then in terms of, I made mention also in terms of the businesses, that bringing the businesses, always reaching out to the businesses is also very expensive. And making sure, and without the businesses, the CBAs will not be active, increasing that number of inactive CBAs. So what we did was to solve this challenge was to create a case platform that brings both businesses and CBAs to interact and interface, and that will reduce this challenge. But this is something that we're still facing because we've not onboarded all the CBAs on the platform. Ezra will talk about this challenge. But there's a lot of lessons learned. I think one of those key takeaway for us will be that the model is working, but the selection criteria must be well thought out. There is no one. I think generally, I will say that having a good agent that combines the digital skills, technical skills, soft skill, and entrepreneurial skill is not an easy thing, but it's more like a compromise. We have to know what level of digital skill is required, what level of technical skills. But what we've seen after this is that those who bring in the technical skill find it very difficult to adopt to the entrepreneurial skills that is required, the mindset change. But those who bring the entrepreneurial skills are more willing to learn the technical skills and continuously earn, as compared to those who bring the technical skills without the entrepreneurial skills. They find it difficult. It's way more difficult to onboard them and change their mind, because definitely, as behavioral science have shown, mindset change is one of the most difficult things. But we're still working hard to see how to break that. So I'll wrap up with the story of Fatima. This also just to say that while we're doing that, there is that extreme focus on making sure that the gender inclusion is well thought out, and currently it's still happening even after the project. And one of those incidents that is eye-catching is that, Kaduna, that are interfacing with smallholder women farmers. So this is the story of Fatima, who was where the male farmers were surprised and laughing that she might not be able to provide the advisory to replace their extension workers. But after that, we've seen that there is a lot of adoption, although we've also seen that women are trying to break that norm, that some of these responsibilities are strictly for men. We've also seen a woman, a CBA, who take up the POS engagement, just trying to break that norm through this process. And 40%, like I said, of these CBAs are now are female, and they're also earning, and their satisfaction rate is even way higher when we created that correlation between satisfaction of farmers from male CBAs and that of females. And we saw that of females was way higher than their male counterpart. Thank you. I'll stop here. Over to you, Hadiza.
Smiling already. Interesting. Told you it's going to be interesting. You see the story of Fatima from 40% to 97%, generating income, knowledge transfer, and so on and so forth. I see the whole of Mr. Abdulsamad's presentation as an evolution from environmental change to behavioral change, and now moving into the digital world. Thank you very much, Mr. Abdulsamad, for that wonderful presentation. If you have any questions, please, you can drop your questions at the chat box. I will take the questions from Mr. Abdulsamad at the end of the webinar. So next, we're having our panel discussion. So our panel discussion is going to table around the major experiences and insights from our partners and also some of our consortium members, which they will be taking us through how the CBA model impacted them by scaling them through their potential, seeing all their potential. So please, I will give it up to Mr. Olushola to moderate the session for the panelists.
Thank you very much, Hadiza, and thank you once again, Abdulsamad, for that brief presentation on the work of Extension Africa around the CBA model in Kaduna. And moving on to this next section in the webinar, I have a very list of distinguished panelists who will be doing justice to the topic, sharing from diverse experiences and insights on the CBA model, its impact, the scaling potential. Remember one thing, we're trying to solve the extension problem here, but one thing I always get excited about anytime I think about the CBA model is the fact that it's not just solving extension problem, it's also creating jobs, a lot of jobs, profitable one for that matter. And we'll be hearing more as we move on to this panel discussion. So please get your pen and paper ready. Should you have any questions, anything you would like to clarify about the model as we engage with our panelists on this session. So without much ado, we will jump right into the very first question. Some people might be wondering on the call, what exactly is this CBA model? What are we talking about? I will allow some members of the panelists to describe what they understand by the CBA model and why the model is important here and now. Let me start off with, they say ladies first, right? So let me start with Dr. Esther Ibrahim, who is a program officer with AGRA in Nigeria. Over to you, Dr. Esther.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Shola. Thank you for having me, and I'll be happy to speak on who a CBA is, gladly, because I started on this my first time been engaged at AGRA in 2018, where the model was introduced to us in Nigeria. Part of the constraints or some of the issues we had was looking at extension messages reaching the farmers the last mile. And, just like Abdulsamad had presented, we had the data, current data as at that time, that one extension agent as at that time, looking at Kaduna and Niger State that were the focus of our states where we were intervening at the time. And so, trying to complement the public extension brought about, introduction of this CBA model, which is like a pluralistic extension model or approach, where we work with the public extension to identify certain individuals within the community that are able to understand, and transfer knowledge to other farmers in the community. So we have this, local agents that are embedded, within the community to serve as a gap between knowledge and the farmers. And so that's why we started with this model, and we had partners like Sasakawa starting, and then in 2019, NARLS joined, and then we have continued to, move this at different fronts. I know other panelists will speak on that, trying to build policy issues around it, advocacy, ensuring that we institutionalize, this concept and all that. And this has proven to be working from what Abdulsamad has presented. Currently, we have over 15,000 of CBAs in Nigeria, and looking at the breakdown, the gender and all that. So it's basically to support last mile, which is very, very critical at this point with the overstretched public extension agents we have, and also the growing volatility, the climate issues, and issues around the agricultural sector. This is very important at this stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, Dr. Esther. Just before I move away from that question, I will also allow Professor Chris from the National Agricultural Extension and Research Liaison Services to also just briefly tell us what he understands by that concept, CBA. And something, when professors talk, you listen, especially if you're in Nigerian, okay? So let's just hear what he has to say. He has experienced this firsthand, both from a research, a knowledge point of view, and practically. Over to you, Professor Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Shola. Very briefly, let me quickly speak to these, but let me quickly appreciate AGRA for supporting NILS and other partners to address critical field issues of extension. So quickly, I will define extension, and then very quickly, because time is short, try to put it into context. For us, a community-based advisor is digitally enabled based on what we have gone through. At the time we started, it was still in process. It's a digitally enabled, locally trusted person, usually a lead farmer, but could be engaged in another enterprise in his community. He will still serve like a para extension agent, connecting farmers to knowledge, one, to inputs, to market, to digital advisory services, and then translating there's so much information or solutions into practical and context-specific actions. That's the definition. But very quickly, let me put you why this has become, why it became necessary for us to have this. Extension agents are the last mile, or what we call grassroots, who are supposed to speak to farmers. Contextually, one extension agent should be speaking to between 500 to 800 farm families, FAO. At the peak of Nigeria's beauty or excellence in extension, it was about 1 to 1,000 in the 80s. Now, depending on your source of statistics, it's between 1 to 10 or 20,000. It's even more because we lack the database to actually estimate what is there. So it's actually much worse than this. So, but what is the real issue why extension agents have become critical? One, like I defined, there is source of information. So today, with all that AGRA and other persons, the citizens have been doing in terms of seed inputs, depending on our source of statistics, we have between 20 to 35% of farmers using improved seeds. AGRA is working mainly in 2 states in CBAs, maybe they're in other states, but effectively very strongly in those 2 states. So you, of course, you have pilot locations where you have high use, but there's a dilution effect when you go nationally. That also has implications on our yields. Our maize yields, you could usually between 3 to 4 tons, sometimes even less. It's against 4, 6, 10 tons, depending on where you're from. Again, in our project site, you'll get much more, but there's a dilution effect nationally. So we needed people who could serve as people who bring relevant, proven information to farmers, but not just serving as information sources. They're also able to facilitate linkages with inputs, with markets, and other related issues. Thank you very much, Mr. Shola.
Thank you, Professor Chris. So what I'm hearing here is that in reality, extension agents, particularly this time around, the community-based advisors are actually essential to our survival in Nigeria, to our food security. All the increase in yield and productivity we are seeing is partly due to their contributions. Thanks so much for that. But don't let's take the word of AGRA or the words of a professor for it. I would like to speak to Dr. Afolabi, who is with Premier Tropicana Nigeria Limited, for him to just quickly tell us, in practical terms, what he has seen by way of the effectiveness. So when we talk about these CBAs, community-based advisors, as we call them, Mr. Afolabi, what has surprised you most? Has any CBA moment been a surprise to you? What story do you have that shows you clearly, vividly, what this model can really do?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Olushola. I would say briefly, talking practically now, the CBA model has actually impacted our business, positively in such a way that we are a commodity trading organization or company, and our core business is grain production and delivery to processors. And of course, our major core activity is grain production. And that has to do with smallholder farmers. And, the smallholder farmers need the knowledge on production, on, adoption of new technologies like improved seeds and the other technologies that they need for them to be able to increase their productivity, because that is where our business lies. And I will tell you, the CBA model has actually done a lot. Surprisingly, it has actually increased our production by over 25% in terms of grains. And that has also made us a little more effective in our service delivery to our end users, that's to the customers that we are servicing, with these commodities. So I would say food security is actually dependent on the activity of the CBA models, because, we cannot reach the smallholder farmers as much as we want to, because we are not in their various communities, because some of these smallholder farmers are actually in the rural communities. And incidentally, these CBAs are actually located in the rural areas that dwells amongst those smallholder farmers. So it's actually very easy for them to communicate with these farmers. And there is this trust that is being created when one of their own is actually teaching or probably exposing new technologies to them. It becomes a little bit easy for them to be able to adopt and make good use of them. And of course, like I said, that increase their productivity, and on the other hand, it also increase our own service delivery to our own customers, because it leads to higher volume of grain that is being produced, which we mop up from them. And again, it also make aggregation a little bit easier for us now, because the CBA must have, is at the forefront with the farmers, and he's doing all of the works, all of the back and forth with them, the discussions in terms of, the model we are going to be using to mop up these grains from them. So he has already cleared, some of the bottlenecks that we would have experienced by going to them as unknown people. So the CBA program has actually transformed, the seed production phase, as well as, food security in Nigeria, practically. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, Dr. Afolabi. And just to add to what you've said, in my own personal experience, what we've seen before is that for a lot of farmers in the rural community, some have to travel as much as 30 kilometers plus to access markets, both inputs and output markets. But with this model where there is a community-based advisor providing strong linkage for the farmers, for the market hand, it becomes a lot easier for delivery of what is needed, and also for aggregation and movement of their produce to the market. Thanks so much for that. So let me jump back to Professor Chris. We are now in the age of digital tools, AI. Everybody has a device in their hands asking ChatGPT questions and all manners of things. So, Prof, the question for you is this, and thankfully you have seen the evolution of education over time, research, practice, maybe even in your experience, you are wondering, how do we deal with students who just go home and do their assignments with ChatGPT now? So we're talking CBA model now, a community-based advisor. Do you think this model is just buying time until digital tools eventually replace everybody, including ourselves, okay? Or do you think, it's going to be a permanent structure, an essential infrastructure for Africa's agricultural development? Prof. Okay, Professor Chris, you are muted if you can hear me. And but if not, maybe you might be having comms problem. I'm happy to possibly move the question to Mr. Abdulsamad, who works with Extension Africa. Okay, Prof is back now. Sorry, Prof. So I hope you got the question. It was about whether the CBA model is a temporary structure or whether you think it's going to be a permanent one, especially given the age of AI, digital tools, individuals consulting with ChatGPT to solve their own problems. Will farmer move to that and nobody is needed again?
The CBA model, it's a permanent, critical, essential future for Nigerian agriculture. Yes, superficially from somebody outside sitting in his office, yes, it's just a matter of time that you want to think that is happening. But in the actual situation, you see, what the AI does is enabling the CBAs in terms of efficiency, effectiveness. I'll give you a quick example. In all of Africa, the CBA is called VBA. Now, if you had come with an AI, say, apply VBA in Nigeria, it will not work. Why? Because the VBA had a negative connotation. So you needed a human interface to give it context for it to be applicable in that area. So for us, the future is digitally enabled CBAs, not digital enablement alone or CBAs alone, where smartphones and ICT for Ag make the human advisor more effective. He's never going to be obsolete. See, the system is the CBA. The digital tools are only an enablement of the system. So for us, we would say that digital tools technically upgrades that make the system, that's the CBA, work faster and smarter. But you must always need the system to create a commercially viable and digitally augmented system. That's what I'll put it. So for us, digitalization scales information while the CBA facilitates the adoption, troubleshoots implementation with the example I gave him at that time, and also provide feedback loops that refine digital tools. So of course, some digital tools will have some feedback mechanisms, but they're not effective and they're not able to capture real ground situations to provide necessary feedback. So for us, I would say that based on my experience, Africa and Nigeria agricultural transformation requires a hybrid structure, digitally enabled human agents, not digital replacement of human agents, if we want to transform agriculture. And for us, let me put a codicy here. When I say CBA, I'm speaking of every grassroots extension agent. The CBA is the major one on the ground, major player on the ground. And the CBA has been successful in that regard. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, Professor Chris. What I'm hearing here is that CBAs will be digitally enabled. They are not to be replaced. We talk a lot about humans in the loop. It's sounding like humans trust humans. Not many of us will just type into ChatGPT for our medical issues and just go ahead and buy the drug because it says, okay, you can just go and consume, or you can just go and procure this medication. We still want to really consult with a doctor and get the full right opinion or the real diagnosis from the experts. So thank you for shedding good light on that. They will be enabled and they will play a major role in this transformation. So going back to Dr. Esther, and really critically now looking at the validation of the impact that, CBAs have had over the years. You've been with AGRA for a while, you've seen it all. So from your perspective, what are the concrete impact evidence that you've seen that really justifies the continued investment in this CBA approach? Maybe there might even be practitioners on the call that are looking to adopt the same model. Government wants to scale it. What strong metrics, tangible results have you seen that you are most confident in that justifies a scale up of this model? Over to you, Dr. Esther.
Thank you, man. Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Nice. So I'm saying that I think Abdulsamad's presentation has made my work response quite easy. From the metrics and the statistics he shared, we've seen the impact of the CBA model. Embedding them in the community shows absolutely that it's a backbone for extension and also building a resilient system. From where I sit, we've had several interventions, particularly in Kaduna and Niger states, and recently we are going into Nasarawa, and we're already moving this model there. But I've seen issues around behavioral change of the farmers, accepting adoption of technologies, where recently the outcome report from, the external evaluation of some of the interventions we've had in Nigeria is showing clearly the movement from, baseline to, what the farmers are getting as a result of the continuous follow-up, of the CBAs who are at the grassroots, who are being trained, who are being enabled, just like Professor Chris said, with different technologies, different backstopping trainings here and there, with different tools that can help them to also support the farmers. So we've 1.3 metric tons for maize moving to the likes of 3.0, over 100% change in yield increase, income, rising for farmers due to linkage to some level of structured markets, linkage to inputs, bringing them closer to different technology options that can help them to do that. So we've seen these results. This is just a recent survey that I'm just trying to quote some of the figures. And this is also, proving what Abdulsamad shared in their survey, looking at the CBA model and its effectiveness. This report I'm sharing comes after what Extension Africa did at the end of 2023, or towards early 2024. So we've seen real jump on behavioral change. Of course, when you teach somebody and he picks it. That means he's trying to drop his traditional way of doing things and trying to take the lessons he's learning from your tutelage as a teacher to him. And I see that some of this farmers trust their CBA because they are from the same community, and these people were democratically elected, and they feel that they won't cheat us. We trust them. We trust whatever information they are giving us. You didn't ask this question, but I have seen from interaction, being on the different platforms, the WhatsApp groups where the CBAs are sharing their issues and also connecting with the farmers on the field, where a CBA is using one of the apps shared with put on their phones by Extension Africa, by NARLS, the Plantix app. A 3 hectare of soybean that would have been lost due to a certain disease that came up at that time. Snapping that with the app and diagnosing, recommending, some level of pesticide or to clear that challenge, helps the farmer recover his field, and he paid for it. And that's also trying extension. Farmers pay for what they see work. And that's because an extension agent, a local extension agent or the CBA was able to respond to him at that time to show him clearly. And after 3 days, he was able to pay this extension, the CBA. So we're seeing some of this behavioral change, a yield increase, productivity, and income as a result of embedding a community-based advisor in the community. So I would like to say that since 2018, AGRA's community-based advisor model is demonstrating that strengthening Nigerians' extension system starts at the community level. Having this last mile helps to see some of these tractions happening. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Dr. Esther. And our time is really running fast. And I would actually also really love the audience, our attendees, to be able to ask their questions and participate. We've seen that a lot of times with webinar, they do benefit a lot from that. So I will probably just ask a few more questions, probably 2 or 3. I will direct to the panelists. Then hopefully we move subsequently to take any relevant questions participants might have for the panelists. So let me jump to Mr. Elad. Mr. Elad is the COO of so I'm moving on to Mr. Shaheed, the COO of Elad Rice. Apologies. And I would just want to quickly ask him about the CBA model as well, and in what way the model has changed Elad's ability to reach and serve smallholder farmers, especially compared to the public extension model or the traditional extension model. Mr. Shaheed?
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, Mr. Shaheed. Welcome.
Sorry, I am not able to join right on time. I was facing some difficulties. I damaged one of my phone, the one I received this message. So I have to log in through another medium to get this message through the email, my email through another medium to get this message. That was why I was unable to join you on time. Sorry for that, please. It wasn't intentional at all. And I sincerely apologize.
No problem. You can go ahead, Mr. Shaheed.
Okay. Over time, the CBA model we adopted and we implemented has given us a very good result, But then, the challenges highlighted, where we have limited education, and limited technological wherewithal by the CBAs is one of the biggest challenges today, However, there is a method we applied. We have this partnership with one of our suppliers of input fertilizer, in particular, the OCP Fertilizer Company Limited. OCP was able to train some of our extension workers, whom invariably we used as our CBAs. They provided some of these gadgets, that most of these informations were installed to help them, relate and pass education to the farmers. This helps us, has gone a long way to help Elach in bridging that gap, of technological idea, in passing information to the farmers. It has gone a long way, and I can tell you that the result is quite encouraging. And we have seen the need to go ahead and, mobilize more resources in that aspect. And we have already started working with some of our critical stakeholders. OCP is one of them, like I told you. We had the intention to extend our arms of friendship to Extension Africa, to liaise and collaborate and ensure that these processes and procedures are enhanced. And I can tell you that what Madam Esther said, in the message I catched when I joined the meeting, farmers have more, local farmers have more confidence in their local CBAs, than any other person. No matter what knowledge you want to pass to them, so long as it is not through someone they can trust, someone identical to them, it becomes very difficult. That issue of trust, that issue of awareness, becomes a very serious problem. But then when you have CBAs that are domiciled within communities, locally, and have that awareness within the locality, it becomes very easy and simple. And I think that has gone a long way in helping us to address some of these issues, we must have had, in the absence of that. So I believe this is quite timely and this is quite encouraging, and we are looking forward to seriously engage, critical stakeholders such as Extension Africa, AGRA, and among others, to be able to bridge that gap more and create more awareness and reach out technologically, to be able to pass this education and ensure that we upgrade the system of farming, through this system. In essence, and largely, I must say that it has been a success, and we look forward to engage more.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shaheed. Great. And as I move towards the end of the panel questions, I have two more. I will ask Professor Chris one and also Dr. Afolabi. I could see some few people have started typing their questions in the Q&A chat box. So please, you can go to where we have the Q&A and type in your questions. We'll pick some of the questions immediately. For the others, we also try to answer or respond to them on the chat so that you could have your answer as much as possible. I could see a lot of interest already, but we soon get to that. So Professor Chris, let's quickly move on to the human API concept, which is part of what we publicized for this webinar. So from a research and extension systems perspective, what exactly are we talking about when talking about this human API concept? What is different about the model compared to other extension agent models and that you have seen or implemented over the years? So what exactly is this human API model and how is it relevant in this discussion? Professor Chris.
Thank you very much. Let me quickly address this question. Basically, for us, we are moving what we call, we are moving from linear knowledge transfer to what we call dynamic system integration. That is, you are moving extension from basically an information transfer device or information delivery device to an integration into the structure. Our traditional extension agents, village extension agents, etc., were primarily focused on sharing improved recommendation as well as making sure that farmers get the right recommendations for whatever they need. But currently, the agent is actually an active, I don't know what better word to use for interface. It's like he's standing between knowledge and the farmer. He's standing between market information and the farmer. He's standing between not the recommended practices and the farmer. So the agent actually is not just a dissemination vessel. He provides multiple systems of real-time knowledge with using advisory tools, using also market systems, information on market systems. And of course, these days climate has affected information so much. Our planting system, in terms of time of planting, has changed. Some places move forward or backward. Our regular mid-season drought either does not happen or it's elongated or shorter. So you need somebody who is an interface on real-time information. So basically, in terms of saying why, if you want to call the CBA as a human API, he's not just the messenger as in extension previously. He's a translator of data into context. You put the data into context. Yes, they say this variety of maize is good for you, but there are some conditions under which it is good for you. Okay, this variety of maize is good. What is the market potential for maize? So should you grow maize because you can grow maize, or you are growing maize because you have identified the market for it? So it translates information into real data context. He's also able to validate recommendation in terms of local realities. And I'm looking for a simple, we don't like using words when we're talking with everybody else. So, this musical, they call them orchestra. You have different players there. So that is what the CBA is. It's an orchestration of services across the agricultural ecosystem. I don't have too much time, but I hope I've been able to address it. But maybe if there are questions, we can pick up on that too.
Thank you, Professor Chris. In computer terms, API refers to application programming interface, and it tries to kind of link, different components. So what I see here is the CBA providing that similar interface within the agricultural sector and trying to make sure that farmers receive exactly what is needed, relevant to their context. Now, the final question for our panelists, I will direct to Dr. Afolabi. One of the things we started seeing from the comments and questions from individuals on the chat is about, how do you guys scale up this model? When is it coming to this other part of the country? And, what is it going to look like? How come we don't have, the CBAs yet in our part of Nigeria? So let me ask you, from Premier Tropicana's point of view, what will it take to co-invest in this CBA model or infrastructure along with other development partners? Obviously, one individual can't do it, but if we want to see a full transformation within the Nigeria agricultural terrain, where every farmer access the knowledge, the resources, the information, the inputs, everything they need to prosper, what will that look like, and how can a firm like Premier Tropicana invest in that alongside others?
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Olushola, for that wonderful question. It's a very good question. And for us, as a company that deals in commodity trading, we, of course, in fact, we have started co-investing with other developmental partners in strengthening the CBA infrastructure model, and because it has actually over time had impact on our business. And I will tell you that we do not actually take on or probably invest in models that do not have, a commercial viability, probably reduce our risks, probably that can be sustained, for a very long time. But we have over the years seen that the CBA model is actually commercially viable. It actually reduces risks to some certain extent. And I will tell you, it's a model, if well adopted, can actually be sustained over time, whether with funding or probably support coming from a developmental partner or not. We have seen actually a transition because Premier Tropicana actually got this support in 2025, and I will tell you till date we are still operating the CBA model. And so I will tell you with facts that we have seen a transition from a developmental supported project, or probably a project that is supported by an NGO, to now a business entity, because right now the CBA model is impacting our business in terms of, volume of production. It's also impacting our business in terms of quality of grains we are supplying to the market. It's also impacting us in terms of, the kind of processors that are actually coming around to certain demands, for the kind of grains that we are supplying. Because right now, like I earlier mentioned, our production is basically by the smallholder farmers, and that terrain is becoming very, very competitive. So to stay in that business, you need CBAs that are actually domiciled in those communities of these farmers for the sake of retention purpose, so that you can retain those farmers, those smallholder farmers that have been in your chain of production over time. We have seen that because of some of the advisories and probably financial and of course climate smart advisory provision, supports that we provide for the farmers through the CBAs. Those farmers, those CBAs have been able to gain trust from these farmers, and the farmers actually they have been able to form them into cooperatives, some of them into groups that, of course, they do not want to leave that system. So that is actually helping us as a business. We have been able to retain those set of farmers continually and consistently, producing grains for us. And that is also impacting our business, because now we do not have to disappoint, our customers. They have, supplies at the time it is needed. Then again, most of our operations are actually based on, data, and of course these CBAs are at the forefront of farm activities, and some of the data they provide us helps us in decision makings in terms of volume of grains to be produced, in terms of volumes that we are aggregating, and the kind of the volumes we have in our stores. And again, they also help us to have even a database for our farmers that we are using, and all of these we are getting from the activities of the CBA on the farms. And again, there is a critical point that I would have loved to make again, if you give me that just a minute. The CBAs actually provide real-time advisories, to these farmers. In terms of good agronomic practices, the kind of seeds to use, the kind of fertilizer to use, when to use them, and that is actually different from what the farmers obtain, from the public advisory system or probably extension system. Sorry, and that has actually increased the volume of grains coming from these CBAs. From the farmers that are linked to these CBAs, and that of course impact our business because of the volume and the quality of grains that we are getting. It also reduces risks, because these CBAs, through these CBAs, we're able to provide, insurances, for these farmers, insurance cover for their farms. We're also able to provide, like I earlier mentioned, real-time weather advisories, and that reduces risks, production risks, to a very, very large extent. And of course, that also assured our businesses, and of course, increase trust by these CBAs. So it's something that we'll continually want to invest. And as I said, we're already investing in that particular model, and is a model that is already now not just an auxiliary model, it's a model that we have imbibed and we have adopted into our former system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Afolabi. I can see Adisa is already coming up, which means that our time is a very, very interesting discussion, but unfortunately, we will have to start rounding off now. I've taken note of the questions in the chat box. Our panelists will try to respond directly to that. I think some have been responded to already. We are also looking to scale this model. So people asking from the Insta part, people from Jigawa, don't worry. Part of investing is to see how this also scales up, and even institutionalization at a national level. But we really thank you for the interest, the excitement. We've spoken about what a CBA means at the beginning, but Dr. Esther will respond to that and just let you know more about the model. But I want to say thank you to all our panelists, Dr. Esther, Professor Chris, Dr. Afolabi, Mr. Shaheed. Thank you for the wealth of knowledge and what you've contributed to this discussion. My name is Shola Adeyemo from AGRA, the lead for Extension. And thank you, Adiza, for the time. Let me hand over to you because of our time, but thanks for the discussion, everyone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oluwashola. I kind of feel I need more thank you because your time ran out of 15 minutes ago. But I was actually enjoying the session, so I had to let that slide. Thank you very much. That was really an engaging session, which led to our audience stepping in and writing in all their questions, and I could see our panelists are actually responding to all these questions. Thank you very much for opening up. in details what the CBA models means, the impact, and also the significance of the previous projects that have been done at AGRA 2.0, Extension Africa, and also other consortium members. Now, we'll be moving on to the next, which is the digital aspect. It started as an evolution from environmental to behavioral, and now to digital aspect. Now, earlier on, while Mr. Abdulsamad was making his presentation, he said that there are some issues with the digital innovation that some of the FBAs or CBAs or farmers are not tech savvy, and is bringing a lot of, let me say, some issues which they know is going to be let me say, tackled in the few years to come. However, for now, I'll give it up to Mr. Ezra. Mr. Ezra, being all these outcomes, which some are positive and a few are negative, Mr. Abdulsamad mentioned regarding the technical aspect, could you please take us through the future of these CBAs, exploring the digital AI tools you have in Extension and Africa, and how do the CBAs or the farmers utilize these tools that you have at Extension? Thank you, Mr. Ezra, and up to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Adiza, and all of the panelists and also the participants on the call today. Please confirm you're able to see my screen.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, so very quickly, let me just run us through what the era of CBAs are in terms of the human APIs that we're talking about. And I will run us through all of this very quickly. Yeah, so this is what I'll be covering in 15 minutes or less, I guess, because of the time we have. We already know the extension gap and the opportunities that the CBA model provides. I'll also be talking about basically telling us what the CBA as human APIs are. As I know somebody asked a question, what do you mean by human APIs? Also just taking us through some of our applications like the FarmEx, AFREXA, and the AI and how they are using it. So I wouldn't bore us with this, but we already know that we have a very high ratio of extension agents to farmers. And because of this, probably less than 10% of these farmers will be able to get access to timely advisories, right? And so even because of this ratio, personalized advisory is very impossible at scale because I cannot go to farmer A and give him personalized advisory about their farmlands, about what they should be planting, about fertilizer recommendation, and so on, and be able to cover 10,000 people. So this is what, so let's just even describe what an API is. As Olushola rightly said, application programming interface, this is what it means. So for those that have a background in computer science, I think this will sit right at home with them. But if you are looking at the top layer, where I have the mobile application and I have the API in the middle and some server or backend system somewhere. The idea of an API is to be able to basically send a request from one system and get a response from another system. Is really just rules and protocols that allows different systems or multiple systems, or pieces of application softwares to communicate. So that's what an API does. So I will relate it back to maybe something we've all done at some point. At some point, we've been to a restaurant where we have checked, like we went through their menu, we made some order to a waiter, and the waiter had to go into the kitchen to basically take your order. And once the kitchen is done with preparing your food, they still call back this waiter to basically present this food to you. So that is what an API is basically. They're able to just communicate between two systems. So from you as an end user of the product and the producers of this product. And I was able to just pick 4 key API attributes or key attributes of what a good API system is meant to be. The first one is abstraction. For good APIs, they are meant to basically shield you from all of the complexities. Imagine you go into a restaurant, now you have to see how your food is being cooked. It's not fun. It's just better for you to just wait and get this food at your table. Another is scalability. A good API system should be able to make 1 million, take 1 million requests and also just attend to them, that is, provide responses to them at a time. And request and response, as I've said, with every API, there's always going to be a request and an expected response is supposed to be gotten. And the last one is interoperability. That is, APIs connect a systems that were originally not meant to basically talk to each other at some point. So, for example, from your mobile app, you're able to talk to a weather advisory system somewhere. They were not meant to operate in this way, but APIs made them possible. So I'll just reframe it back to the CBI model where we are talking about where the agent becomes the API. So we have this scary ecosystem where we are talking about AI, we are talking about these, we are talking about farmer charts, we are talking about FarmEx. All these are very complex applications that the farmer would not be able to use. So that's why the CBA model sits like strategically in between. The CBAs get this knowledge. They are able to basically do the abstraction of all the complexity about these mobile applications, about these pieces of software that are intended for these farmers to be able to leverage on. So they take away all of this complexity and become a bridge to the farmers. They also now act as bridge to agribusinesses, basically because now they are not just providing advisory to the farmers, they're also providing market intelligence to these agribusinesses. So this is how we see the human API, which we call the CBAs, basically interfacing between all of these ecosystem players. And what does this mean to the farmer? For example, scalability, which I spoke earlier on as one of the key attributes of an API. A farmer should be able to serve at least 10,000 people with as much speed as possible, because now they are empowered, they become reliable, they become fast, and they're able to basically serve even their farmers on personalized level, because now they can leverage all of this digital ecosystem, the technology, the applications, the softwares, and so on to basically provide value to this farmer. And also, maybe lastly, I'll just take about the interoperability and what it means for the farmers. So now we have a lot of digital tools, again, that have been created because of these farmers. But because of all of this complexity, there's no network in their local communities. They don't have the infrastructure. They don't have the money to be able to buy data and so on. Why don't farmers or the agents basically just act as a cushion for this? So they basically interact with these systems and the farmers. So that's really what we mean by the agents as human API. Because of our time, I'll just quickly move to some of the tools that we've seen these CBAs used over the past few years that we've been working with them. One is the Africa Extension Academy. This was developed with support by AGRA, basically, to be able to aggregate all of this knowledge contents coming from the academic and research institute into 3D videos, harmonized manuals, PDF documents, interactive documents for these agents to be able to learn. Because for the agents, we need them to be reliable. We need them to be up to date about certain things concerning knowledge management and so on. And then this has been really accepted by some partner universities that have been working with, like the ABU Zaria, for instance, University of Ilorin, and so on. They've accepted this as agricultural contents that they even teach even their agricultural students, that we hope become at the end of the future CBAs. And we have FarmEx, which is basically a customer relationship management tool that the extension workers use to manage their farmers. So they're able to profile their farmers. This also features a marketplace where the agent is able to buy some inputs, fertilizers, insecticide or pesticide, and so on, to be able to basically serve their farmers quickly. And it also features a vendor part where agro dealers are able to upload their inventory, and farmers and the extension workers are able to buy from this. And we have people like Bayer and so on basically using the SaaS platform of the FarmEx application. Remember, I said that these CBAs are not just there to provide advisories, but they are also able to collect some data and provide market intelligence to these agribusinesses. And finally, we have the case platform where these extension agents have been trained, but they lack visibility. So imagine an extension agent that has all of these criteria that we've described. Is scalable, is interoperable, and so on, but they do not have the visibility from these agribusinesses or small agribusinesses, their locations, to basically engage them in a meaningful way. So that's why we've developed case with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. And we've started this project called IrokoAI, basically to be able to also make these extension agents 10 times smarter. So I'll just quickly go into these different applications and how they are being used. So for FarmEx, for example, which I already said was the agent's CRM tool, basically where he's able to profile his farmers, manage their farmlands, is able to profile their farmlands, take stock of what the farmer's seasonal event or compass looks like. So today the farmer is planting this, tomorrow I went, this is what the situation of their plants looks like, this is what I feel they are going to be harvesting. So they're able to track all of their activities across the season for their individual farmers. And this way they're able to provide personalized advisories for these farmers. So it features a marketplace where they're able to buy and sell inputs. They're able to provide different services down to even insurance services for these farmers. And I made mention of the SaaS platform where we're able to provide agribusiness intelligence to these agribusinesses, basically supporting the farmers. For example, flour mills, for example, can see the number of sales they are making in a community because all of this happen on FarmEx. And AFREXA is basically what builds the capacity of these extension agents. And we cover 4 skills, which is soft skills, for them to be able to communicate right, for them to be able to mobilize their farmers, and also just act in a professional and ethical way. We also train them on digital skills because we're in a digital era. We are now talking about AI. We are talking about softwares. We are talking about this. These extension workers needs to be they need to have the capacity basically to use all of these digital tools that are available to them. But digital tools alone is just not okay for them. So we need to also train them on the agronomy skills they need. They need to be able to tell us about what the soil is going to look like, recommend the right fertilizer, and so on, and also agribusiness skills. Once an harvest has been done, how do we tell the farmers the right way to keep their record? How do we tell them where to sell, and so on? So these are basically the 4 core skills that are targeted on the AFREXA platform. Moving on to the commercial agent search engine, which is CASE, is yes, we have all of these agents that have been trained, they are capable and so on, but we need to make sure they are discoverable. We need to make sure that agribusinesses are able to search for them. So we profile them by level and also by the services they are able to basically render. So for an associate level, so what we did was to say, okay, these are 4 levels to what an ideal extension agent or a CBA is going to be. We have the associate level, intermediate level, expert and professional level. So for an associate level, for instance, we require them to be able to do the minimum of data collection. They should be able to collect data about the farmers. They should be able to map the fields at least, but shouldn't be able to provide maybe advisory. That should be an advanced level. So we've categorized these CBAs in that kind of level and make them visible for anybody, anywhere, to be able to search, deploy, and manage extension worker. And in the AI, or in terms of the AI, IrokoAI, basically what we are trying to do here is not trying to replace the CBAs, as someone asked earlier. We are just trying to make them 10 times smarter, because now they are able to instantly get intelligence. They're able to ask questions. So imagine that you have a CBA that has gone to support their farmer on a farmland, and they've come across a disease that they've never seen before on that field. Now they will have to maybe go back to their SFBAs or a coordinator somewhere and ask them this question. Before you know, they've wasted maybe 10 days or 4 days in trying to figure out what the problem is and provide solutions to this. But what we are saying now with AI, they're able to take the pictures of these pests and diseases disturbing their crops, and they get instant feedback and recommendation of how to basically solve this problem. So this makes them 10 times smarter and also faster. So that's what we are trying to do with the AI in supporting the CBAs. We are not replacing them, but making them way smarter and faster than they would ordinarily be. So what we've done so far, currently with the support of AGRA, we've been able to basically train more than 6,000 extension agents on our network to be able to deliver these values across these different channels, to be able to provide value to the agribusinesses, values to the farmers, and so on. And we've been able to reach about 1 million plus farmers. And so far, we've onboarded about 800 plus agro vendors on our FarmEx application. So this is what we've currently been able to do. But the future for us is not just the FBAs, for instance, but even the farmers should be able to basically leverage on the power of AI to be able to get knowledge contents that have been aggregated by all of the AGRA partners and so on via USSD, IVR, the smartphones and so on. We don't want to leave anyone behind, and that is why we've been preaching about the AI and what the CBAs are going to be looking like in the nearest future. So for moving forward, the CBAs are really going to be enabled. They are going to be 10 times smarter and not replaceable or replaced as people would want to believe. I think that was all I have to say for now. Thank you, Hadiza. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ezra. This is not just what you just said. It's a series of evolution for all the CBAs. You see from, let me say, traditional level or conventional level. Now you're moving them into a series of classes and series of, let me say, applications, series of AI digital tools to enhance their capacity and also open opportunity, market opportunities for them in terms of sustainability. This is really great. Thank you very much, Mr. Ezra. Although you were running fast, we did grab all you wanted to say, I'm sure due to timing. And then please, if you have any questions, you can drop your questions now on the Q&A chat box while I read your questions. And if the panelists are here, they can also answer the questions directly. So I think all the questions have been answered except two questions. One coming from Mr. Musa Abo, by name, agribusiness community based in Delta. He would want to work with AGRA, or what he mean actually is, I think he would want to know more about AGRA, if I'm not mistaken. Reading directly, he said, I would like to partner with AGRA to see how agricultural development can be extended to Southern Nigeria. I think this will go to Dr. Esther, this question. Go to Dr. Esther.
Thank you very much. I think I responded to him on the chat. But I just must say it here that the CBA model, of course, the issue is we are in the northern part. It was actually a proof of concept, which was done in Kaduna, Niger. Now we've moved to Nasarawa, and there are some of the partners that have even taken the CBA model beyond where they are. Like NERLS has already taken CBA model to Ashaka Cement, in Gombe State. The Premier Tropicana is moving it to their different location. A sister company, Premier Seed, is employing the CBA model across their states of operation. I think like 26 or states in Nigeria. And I know that Extension Africa is currently working with the ADPs across Nigeria to see how they can, scale some of this model in the different states. So it's not just it's not just AGRA, it's a system thing. We're talking of API. This is not geography based. It's more like an interface, right? A CBA providing different services across the agricultural value chain. So it's helpful. It's a system thing. It's not just that we are where we are because we want to be where we are, but we are learning lessons that can be scaled, to different parts, at least by partners, stakeholders, the government, the private sector partners, and that's why the webinar is happening and you're here. So if you want to learn more from us and what we are doing and how you can also, be able to move that to where you are, we can also have that discussion. But I know I've responded to you on the chat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I think we have another one from Mr. Zaradin. I think this is the second question from Mr. Zaradin. He said, thank you once again for the prompt responses to my questions. How do you ensure that the model or the approach remains in context specific rather than becoming a one-size-fits-all framework? And how do you balance donor priorities with locality identified needs without compromising the integrity of the community-based approach? So I think this question is for Mr. Abdulsamad. Mr. Abdulsamad? Okay, I think Mr. Abdulsamad will type in, and I'm seeing thank you coming in from our participants also. All right, I think we've exhausted all our time, and then please, if you have a question, please just drop the question and we'll respond to you via your email. You add up your email to the questions and the questions will be responded accordingly. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining this session. It was really an engaging one, an eye-opener, and then I'm sure we've learned one or two things from this session. And yeah, we have a hands up from one of our panelists, Mr. Ibrahim. Okay. We have another message from Mr. Ibrahim. For closing, it said, thank you very much. The webinar was an eye-opener. My question is, what's Extension Africa and AGRA doing to engage people like us, studied agriculture and up to master's level in the system? All right, so I think, Mr. Ibrahim, you joined late. AGRA explained what they were doing, and they're also Extension Africa. If you could follow till the end of the presentation with Mr. Ezra, you could see how Extension Africa is scaling, and Dr. Esther also previously, few seconds ago, just answered many of this question about 2 to 3 paragraphs, or let me say sentences. She answered where AGRA covered, what AGRA are doing. But if you would want to know more about Extension Africa and AGRA, you could check their web pages, and also please send a message to them via their email or check their website. I'm sure you will learn lots more about AGRA and Extension Africa. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining the session. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a nice day ahead, and goodbye.